Hello everybody and welcome to Witness My Minis. I'm Peter and today we try out a new style. So there is so many amazing painters out there, but a couple for me that has never ceases to amaze me is Marco and Alexandra over at Craftworld Studios. So the thing is, when I look at other professional miniature painters, I would say that I could guess of how they achieved stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I could do any of it. I can guess how they achieved anything, and in the end, most of it kind of feels like it would have been painstakingly time-consuming. And that is not the case with Craftworld Studios. They don't care about smoothness. They don't care about showing brushstrokes. Like, basically the opposite of that. They are trying to provoke with their brushstrokes. Their pieces are thought-provoking color explosions. So I've heard people say that color theory doesn't matter in miniature painting. I would say that if we try to focus on this style, I would say that it is entirely dependent on making it work. So I thought I'd give it a try. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, so the subject will be this bust. Step 1 is to establish the volumes and the brightest points using the airbrush. This being a metallic surface, it will also be reflective, of course, so it should have a gradient according to that. Then I move on to my color scheme. I plan to do two sides of the bust in different ambient lighting. One warm side and one cold side. I know that Craftworld uses artist range paints from scale 75, so that is what I'll be using too. I start by glazing both sides with the chosen colors, with the yellow being the warmest, the blue the coldest, and the magenta as kind of a mid-tone in between the two. I'll explain later why I go with the magenta for this. And after the glazing is done, I move on to the brush. I start with pure colors and go in with glazing consistency so that the established work underneath don't be totally lost. So as you see here, I only use 4 colors on my palette. And in the next step, when trying to establish the volumes and just making it work, I mix all my 4 colors in different variations and continue glazing transitions between the different colors. And at the same time trying to add volumes by following the map I've done with the airbrush. The lighter variations of the colors go where the brightest underpainting shows through, and the darkest, yeah, you get the point. As I mentioned before, the magenta acts like the perfect go-between of the both sides. Just take a look at this color wheel and you see what I mean. By mixing in reds and yellows on the warm side and blues on the cold side, I get an easy transition that makes sense across the whole mini. As I continue working with this, I totally get how it's hard to describe how to do this style. It's just so much feel. I just go what feels right. And many times I just place a color somewhere and just see how it works and see what happens. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just so much touch and go and it's so much fun. So yeah, I was totally unafraid to just try it out and just go with it. And that's what you should do too. The only thing that I really focus on is to not add any more colors to my palette, to really focus in on using the 4 colors that I've set. Instead, try to go with mixes in between if I feel like I want to show off a different material or something. I just try to mix and go. And there's a lot of different variations in between these 4 colors. In doing this, I really make sure that nothing feels out of whack because everything comes from the same place. So speaking of contrast, as I said before, the main focus on this one was to stay with those 4 colors and to try to get contrast instead of warm and hot colors as well as brightness in colors. To the brightest highlights, I do add in some white. I know, cheating, but I do stay away from black in the shadows, instead mixing my darkest colors with magenta, red, and blue. For the edge highlights, I go in with yellow and blue mixed with white, and then I glaze them down in some places so that they aren't as bright everywhere. It's so freeing to not care about brushstrokes, but instead trying to make them work in as a part of the artwork, using them to get a painterly style. It's so much hit and miss, but I love to play around with it. The skin is something that usually tends to be smooth, but even here, it's so liberating to just try to get all those colors in there and try to do strokes that pulls focus instead of glazing everything forever and ever and ever. So while I continue painting, I'll just share this with you. This is actually a part of a painting relay that we are running over at our Discord. I was sent this bus to paint for someone else, and I will now send this one together with something to paint for the next one in the relay. And when it's all done, we will have sent minis all over the world. From Scandinavia, to Europe, to UK, to Australia, to Canada, and the United States. This is just one of many awesome things that the mod team organized, and you're more than welcome to come and hang out and participate. Do you have any painters that have a special style that you admire? Please mention them in the comments down below. I would love to have a look. And don't be afraid to take a stab at a new style yourself. You never know if it clicks. So here she is. This is how she turned out. I had so much fun doing this. It was so out of left field of what I normally paint. If you want to support my work, I am on Patreon and you'll find the links in the description below. Thank you guys. Bye bye.